So a round of applause for Tim Tom Minderhoud from UNC.
Comparing just blowing away. First a small introduction for myself, US Studio. As you may or may not know, US Studio is an architecture firm based in Amsterdam. The long history of projects going back 30 years. So since, as you might say, we're interested to work on different skills. So to provide concurrent levels and architecture, it's always down to the product level. So design the door handle, for example. And recently we've also been looking at experience design. And because they see this as one of the up-and-coming topics to engage with clients, it's like, how do you experience our architecture? So I've been with UN Studio for 15 years. I mainly do larger projects. So I've worked on powers, stations, some retail, currently working on a large hospitality project. And what we always try to do at the studio is to call it future-proof future. Meaning that any kind of architectural idea we come up with is intended to be built in, let's say, 5 to 10 years. So it always takes a lot of time before our work comes to fruition. And while we design, we also try to learn. And for me, that's why I find the mix between larger projects and research interesting. Because either we can learn from our large projects and see it as research, or the other way around. So we can go into European research since 2011, looking at possibilities, looking at building wood. Currently looking ahead in conserving energy measures in buildings, so reducing energy or use. And Basajaun is a very interesting project because it's intended to do a number of things. It was initially pitched as a way to develop rural areas within Europe by looking at how we could use wood as part of the European supply chain. So you can imagine that there are quite harsh areas of Europe that are forested, and those areas usually are behind in terms of it's economical outputs. And the idea was that, say, by using the wood from forest, then upgrading it to raw building materials, to upgrading it into architectural components, eventually building it into architecture. This would be the economically viable way to promote development in certain areas. Basajaun is focused on building in wood and building in biopit sites. So those are two topics. And the other interesting thing is that we work with a large consortium, so roughly 25 members, among others, Notebook that have been here, the MMS, so to speak. And for us, being in such a large multi-passion project, we also had to find a way how to communicate to each other. Different languages, different disciplines, different interests. We acted as architects in that setup, and tried to listen as best as possible. So, European supply chains. This is a diagram that we set up just to kind of show how we think about the raw products, basically the forest resources, and how we start to understand with different partners how we can use this with sales. So this shows different levels of complexity and possibly also value in terms of products that are being produced. So you can imagine if there are parties or consortium that look at the mapping the forest resources. Then we have a company called the Geneva, for example. They are in soil. They have a lot of manufacturers creating and intel partition walls, creating facades, creating other elements. Then where we come in as in the studio, we have experimental pilot buildings. And then finally, and that's also another role of ourselves, because once we're building together for its apartment use, can we take apart according to cradle principles as well. Of course, the whole topic of carbon embodiment is important. So the idea of using wood is that, say, while growing, trees can actually harvest CO2. And sitting together with an elsewhere, and we're working very closely on a digital setup that shows for each step on the way towards the building how much energy is used, how much CO2 is captured or used in the production, and also looking at costs. So just to get a feel of like as an end user or maybe somebody who is interested in using wood as a product, it's like what is actually real in terms of sustainability, in terms of cost, and how can you find the data on this. That is something we try to make accessible. So in short, the cradle principles. So both the design is focused on detailing that allows us the proper dismantling of our building. For this, it's interesting to know that say, obviously what we try to do is to use with the old tree, so that everything on the tree we preserve it. And what you then see is chocolate that you have wood itself as, for example, exterior finishing. It's something that you can detail quite easily, and in theory it can be dismantled in 30 years or replaced or renovated. So that presents a quite straightforward cycle of all the created railroad principle. For example, the via composites and materials of river gas, which is something that we upload and heavily, and some of the via composite principles came from the previous European source of these. It presents a whole new level of difficulty for architects to work with. As an example, they're using the bike deposit profiles anywhere with the transit volumes of girdle of the sides. So a material that would normally be from extruded aluminium, we replace with biocomposites using sawdust from the wood. But also, this composites of various plastic-based base material in it. Allows us to use all the byproduct from the wood, but say from the rail perspective, it's more difficult to dismantle later on because it is a composite, and it's then what it is to take part eventually. It's also very tough material, so just trying to use it presents interesting challenges. It's much more difficult to cut than NEB. But just because a lot of people are interested in the biocomposites, we have some experience with it now, and we know what the processes are and discounts. So as I said, we are architects in this sense, but for us it's not a typical assignment because we are part in a large consortium, and sometimes we are in the lead and sometimes not figuring for design topics when we get to reach an agreement within the consortium, when we see ourselves more as a system as an integrator of listens to all the different parties involved, which forward to the design, and on that basis we've evaluated different possibilities. We have an experimental pilot building in Turin and one in Bordeaux, which I will show these presentation. And both of them were fully implemented in Revit. It is our software tool. So all the industry partners that work in Revit basically contributed through this tool and shared platform called Think 360. And that's how we communicate in a digital way between the consortium partners. So we can see here two conceptual images I think in the European concept and context, it's also really important to know that although this wasn't captured in the spatial planning exercise by demo, what we do try to do is to show the different conditions that you might expect throughout CERN. So everything from us was that we had one office building or one meeting place for VCT, our training partner, where we added a teacher's residence for the département in Geneva in Bordeaux. And this allowed us to study this subject at the very different typological conditions, geographical locations, and in different climes. So you can imagine that, say, like in Finland, they have a very different tradition in building woods than in Bordeaux. So in our initial studies, this is something we try to capture. And as have typological research, had to make connection with historical ways of building and still introduce a lot of our new ambitions and principles. But these are the two locations, so cannot be further apart. And it might be that there are also other possible locations we try to capture and with some of these ideas.
Great.
So we just see here is the project site. It's a beautiful lake. It's in the middle of one of the most forested areas in Minderhoud. The location is owned by VCT. They are research labs at the Computer Institute. And yeah, just to kickstart the design, we just started brief and we started to play with it. So what you can see here is the main access roads. We quickly recognize, let's say, our model building would be a showcase for VTT. And we try to kind of position it among the rows, making it very adequately visible, and then curving it outwards and making it how it looks today. As you can see, while we're still trying to understand the possibilities, we try to make the building as big as possible, adding a lot of vaulting, and create this attractive area. One layer. This is very much concept. This is so this is purely your studio. This is where we start to work together. So what you see, for example, here is the main Lunan structure. So it's navigated timber, and this model was provided by Nolden. They're the company Tussen Lunan in Sweden, and when they're for Hinar. These two models, they are very specialized at the site, some detail. But I learned it conveying the time and this very design model from us. But the whole idea is that other way here is a separate models which can be shared. And these models can be put together to allow a check if it's fitting and built, as then you would probably run the plan server. So this in a way is kind of our software language to communicate to each other. And in the end, of course, it's the architectural problem that are fully model, but needs to create the ways because that what you see in the building industry in the end, the drawing is usually one of the deliverables. That now more and more you see that an IFC here consolidated rapid model can be the basis for getting something new else by culture. So, and I touched on the fact that we made the building slightly too big. As it turned out, we had quite a good budget available as target projects, which is the latest inflation, and especially also kind of the appreciation would, the prices have gone through the. So at some point in the project, we realized that this got almost too big. Original booking, that's a big, so it is a valued exercise, try to make smaller. But as it turned out, with all the faded prices, that this building became less and less valuable. And yet, we didn't have enough money as a consortium. We still tried to get more funding from VTG, that is the main benefactor of this nice building. But we didn't succeed, so unfortunately one of the demo rooms will not get built. So it's very thought to be very transparent about it. This wax European one.
Materials, right?
Yeah, it's caused by materials. It's innovation and materials.
And not only that, to quote plywood that's imported from Russia usually at low price. As most of the building is built in material that previously were always up for Russian.
Yeah.
So we don't problem with that.
Yeah, but I'm very clear about it because for me it's a successful planning exercise. It's an issue that we somehow face as an architect. Is that in a given design phase, not enough money, or if the support for it willing to us sufficient, they cannot be built. But still, and that always awful how we work together. We're in a very coordinated, friendly sense. Like you will say the summit demo. So this is on a project site of a very high school. Say new domain, which is a school project. It's campus being designed by PBM architects. It's a French architect. That they were so kind to allow us a very small portion within the site to design the teacher residences, which we're very based on. And within the research project, what we try to do is to take their design principles and then take it further. Because what you see here, it seems like a fully wooden building. It's basically a special concrete on the inside and then just triangle. So it's a little bit kind of woodwork, let's say. And it's when we started to look at the teacher's residence, goal was to do everything. So that we lit up the volume and tried to express some passive sustainable measures, but the end goal of like helping you fully build that's important. So there's some he's from the inside. They can imagine, let's say, and then if you finish this upwards, then you so that it's here you can see this behind finishes when structure upwards. And all the walls are 6 panels of wood. Then that first the mast, the cover wood, that's the transoms, so verticals between the mast. So it lines, the verticals between the mast, they are the 5 percent. So it's really been taken to the next level, almost there is walls. Again, the physical format that what we really about was then, and then when that current showing the walls, or as two brothers, and if it is a partnership that was providing budget, then what's very important to note is that, say, there's a very high degree of repetition. But there's some buildings, so you need projects, and what the end goals are involved in the construction of prefabrication is that once you design plans, the building can see as an explanation or solve the separate building formats that you developed. So, for example, if you work with facade, there are, we say, maximum applied for 6 different facade elements to create a specific building, but they could also be applied in future building. And they could also be produced in a very factory-like setting that allow a certain representative scale. But this is just a nice image for for a teacher to be able to live in this very natural environment. So it's the quite spacious residences, so I say is very attractive, and this is all being offered by and the most large wonder, so it's allowed to see here. As that is very ideal, and it is what I was talking about. To say for us, it's not only have a building with all the duration of elements, but I think for you it's also very important to see how we have had knowledge value to that's back to supply chain. So in here you could imagine that I have all these different building alleys, but the products that are shopping this kind of smaller background, which could be applied in our business. And I think that's made also with the aim about the amounts of layers and together with the males, also because the northern demo of the overall had, we saw the value of doing for exercise and then on the larger area. building. This would be easily applied through how ours fill up. And in teach residences by specific, or work in meeting spaces by specific, we together we devised like straightforward concept for a tiny house. But we had all that images, but that would be our kind of next step to test how commercial five and some of these principles are. So together with our partners, we're going to see like, can we take with products, put them together in more in that building, this they be applied in some of the main markets for Germany, France, the Scandinavian countries. So, and if we create value, where should we be out of this overall, use this research in there. But that's why it's late. It's a small building. It's very worried about me to lease to make photos, to do assessment at night. So definitely, the southern Denmark is now speeding ahead, and we as always is going to
Yeah.